Okay, now let's bring some challenges. So instead of that the player walk to the trigger and trigger the door open, the player actually have to collect a key or something in order to open the door. Okay, so let's bring in this skeleton inside of the scene. So maybe he was an employee here. So I just made this pose in Maya. So if you are taking my 3D modeling class, you can do it yourself, modify the skeleton pose. So this is gonna be the key in order to open the door. All right, so let's go to the folder that I provided and drop this whole skeleton RIP folder into Unity. Okay, so here we go. So now let's bring in the model into the scene and let's place him somewhere in the color. Let me check the size. Okay, yeah, the proportion looks good. Maybe just make it a little bit bigger. All right. And then let's work on the materials. So here in the folder, let's create a material. Let's say M skeleton RIP, and let's bring in the skeleton texture and then drop in the material to the skeleton. And for the necklace, let's create another material. CM necklace, and let's bring in the texture and the normal map and the sign. Oh, it's very hard to get it. Okay, so let me select the necklace, press F key, zoom in so we can see it better. Here we go. All right, and then is the key. So we're gonna create a new material as well. And bring the texture maps and get the material onto the object. Okay, so here, let's select the key, press F key to focus our view on it. And let's go to game object and create a point light. Okay, we want some lighting on it. And for this point light, let's change its range. So, okay, so right now the range is huge by default. Okay, make the range smaller. And intensity higher. And also let's change the color to a yellowish color because we want it to look like a gold. All right. Okay, looks good. So now our player should see the lights, and maybe he will walk here to pick it up. Okay, so now here it comes a question: pick up object. So how are we able to pick up the object? Okay, so go to the assets, go to the script, and drop in the press key pick up object script. Drop it in here. Okay, so let me show you the script. So basically the function is whenever a object that tag as a player, which is our first person controller, right, enter this trigger, and then you're going to show an instruction like press EK to pick up this object or press RK to pick up the object. Also, you're going to make the action as true. So basically here we call a boolean, and by default the action was false. Okay, so whenever our player enter it, you're gonna turn the action as a true, and you're gonna show the instruction. And whenever our player exits the trigger, and the instruction gonna be false, so you're gonna disappear, you're gonna be hidden, and the action gonna be false. Okay, so basically this action is an action check, whether the player is in the trigger or not. And then if we have pressed down the EK and also the action is true, the action is true means our player is in the trigger. Okay, when both conditions met, you're going to trigger this function to work. So basically you're going to hide the object on the ground, which is the key on the skeleton's neck, and then you're going to show the key on our player's hand. So basically you're going to switch, right? And also you're going to disable our this trigger, which is the trigger to pick up the object, and you're going to play the object as a sound, pick up object sound. So basically that's the function. All right, so now let's apply it. So here let's select the skeleton, and let's create a new object, a cube, and we're going to use this cube as trigger pick up, let's say pick up key. Okay, and let's not make it too big, otherwise when our player walks here, it will pick up the key is not realistic. So we're gonna make it small just to cover the skeleton's chest, and check on its trigger, and check off mesh render, and okay, and then let's drop the script onto it. Okay, so the instruction, let's create the instruction. So here let's go to game object and UI and legacy and text. So for the text, we're gonna see instruction key or instruction pickup key. Okay, and what instruction I want to show? I want to show press E to pick up the key. And let's select this instruction, press F key to focus our view on it so we can see. Okay, as you can see right now, the text is very small, and also the color is dark. So let's change the color to red so we can see it better. And let's make the font size maybe 30. But as you can see, it disappeared. That is because our text box is very small. All right, so now it's there, and then let's center our text. Press E to pick up the key. Here we go. All right, so now let's go back to trigger pick up the key, and let's get the instruction on there. And this trigger is the trigger itself, and object on ground, which is the key. Yeah, that one. Okay, object on hand. So basically how we're going to use this is, just imagine if we have a flashlight or we have a gun on the ground, you know, we have a copy of it. So for example, if this is a gun, so we just duplicate it and then make the duplication in the first person controller here. Okay, place it here. So whenever we press the E key, you're gonna hide the gun on the ground and you're gonna show the gun on the character's hand. So that's what we're gonna use later on. Okay, but right now I don't think we're going to show the key on the character's hand. So what we're gonna do for the script is here. Okay, so object on hand, we're going to just drop the door trigger at here instead. Okay, so by default, the door trigger, let me show you. By default, the door trigger will not be there, so it will be deactivated. And once our player come here to pick up the key, and then the door trigger gonna be activated, and then whenever our player walk here, the door gonna open. All right, so we'll use it this way for now, and later on when we do the gun, pick up the gun, we will make a copy of the gun and place the gun on the character's hand. So this is the plan. All right, so now let's select the pick up the key trigger. So let's see, we still have, okay, next instruction. So next instruction again, when we pick up the gun, you need to tell your audience how to use the gun, right? So that's the next instruction. So whenever you pick up the gun, next instruction would be, for example, press 1 to shoot, once, and press 2 to shoot twice, something like that. So right now, since for the key, we don't need to teach our player how to use it. So here we're gonna just create something like a placeholder. You can have this name or anything you want, and just place it underneath the trigger. So we'll keep everything organized, and then select the trigger, pick up the key, and here next instruction we can just apply the placeholder at here, and then pick up object sound. Okay, so that will be a sound. So let's create an empty object, and let's have a audio pick up key. Okay, and then let's go to the assets, let's go to the audio, and let's drop in the audio pickup, audio necklace. Yeah, I named it this way. So put it here, audio necklace, and let's drop it onto this audio pickup key. So here we go. So let's check off play on wake because we want it to be called to play, and make it a 3D sound, and then go back to trigger pickup key, go to the script here, and drop in audio pickup key. Okay, so that's everything. So now let me double check the script. So yeah, in the beginning, object on hand was disabled. So that means in the beginning, the door trigger will be disabled whenever we start the game. Okay, so now let me do a test. Okay, so now you can see that the door is not opening because the trigger was hidden. And then, all right, we discovered something. We walk here, and then it says press E to pick up key. So now if we press E, see that? It has a sound, and the key disappeared. And then the door trigger will be there. Yeah, the door trigger is there. Okay, so there's one thing I would change, which is the light. Okay, I think I'm gonna place the light underneath the key, so they're going to be disabled together. Okay, so now let's go back to the key here. Okay, and this is the light for the key. So let's change it. Change the name. Let's see, light for key. Okay, so we keep everything organized. So now let's drop it inside of the key. So once the key is disabled, the light is gonna be disabled. Okay, so yeah, we worked on this part. So now our player will be able to exit the door. Okay, and then we want our player to be able to open this door. Okay, so now we're going to add a function which is press a key to open door. Okay, so now let's drop in the script. So let's go to the script section. Let's bring in press key, open door. Let's bring it in here. All right, so now let's come here. Let's create a 3D object, a cube. And let's say trigger, open door. And let's make it bigger. So whenever our player enter this area, he will be able to open the door. Okay, and make it transparent and check on its trigger, and then let's drop in the script onto it, which is the script is the press key, open the door. So here, let me explain you the script first. All right. So basically in the beginning, instruction is disabled. What is the instruction? So basically it's like press E to open the door, right? So in the beginning, we don't want it to show. And when the object tag as a player enter the trigger, the instruction going to show, which is press E to open the door. And you're going to also have the action check, the boolean. Okay, so it has a two state. When the player is inside of the trigger, the action is true. When the player is outside of the trigger, exit the trigger, the action gonna be false, and also the instruction gonna be disabled. So when you press down EK, and also when the action is true, so that means our player is inside of the trigger, so both the condition met, and then what gonna happen is you're going to play the door open animation, so door gonna open, right? And then you're gonna play the door open sound. So that's it. All right, so let's go back here and let's assign the object, each one of the object here. So first we have to create the instruction. So let's just go to the instruction that we have created, hit Command D to make a duplication, and rename this new instruction as instruction open door, and change the text to press E to open the door. And you can keep everything as it is, but double check to make sure the text are showing up correctly. So here, let me hide the first one. So all right, it looks good. All right, so now let me switch back to open the door trigger. Okay, and let's see what's the next one. So the next one, oh, we have to apply the trigger first, and then, sorry, my bad, assign the instruction to here. And then next one is trigger. This trigger basically is itself, and door open sound. So now let's create empty object, and let's see audio open door or open cage, because this is a cage, right? So now let's go to assets and go to audio, and let's bring in yeah, audio iron cage open door. Yes, that's the one. This is the one. So let's drop this onto audio open cage and check off play on awake and make it a 3D. That's it. So now let's assign that to here. Okay, so now the only thing that left is the enemy object, which is the door open animation, right? So we're gonna go to the cage that we have imported earlier. See, it has two parts, right? So when we create animation, when we open the door, we don't want it to open this way. right? Because the anchor point is in the center. We want it to open based on the hinge. So that's to say we need the anchor point to be on the hinge. So how can we do that? Let's create a new 3D object, a small cube, and make this cube as, for example, we can rename it as a hinge, and we can, we'll just keep it at our original location here. Okay, so now let's make it smaller. Make it small, and then place it around the hinge of the door. That's it. Okay, so now let's hide it. Okay, let's hide it, and then let's bring it into the cage. Drop it here, and bring the door under the hinge, and it doesn't allow me to do it because this is a prefab. I created this model in Maya. So when I import this whole thing, it's a group, right? So it really is a prefab. So all we have to do is just break the prefab. So right click on it, prefab, and let's unpack. So here we go. So now you should be able to modify the structure of it. So now if I select the hinge, see, and if I go to rotation, see, now I can rotate this hinge based on this point, and because the door is attached to it, so the door follows it. Okay, so now you get what I'm gonna do next. I'm gonna go to animation folder, and then select the hinge, and I'm gonna go to animation tab, and I'm gonna create a animation. So this time I'm gonna say cage open door. Okay, and save, and I'm going to record animation, and then go to maybe 8 frames. Okay, it's already outside of range, but 80 frames, and then I'm going to rotate the door to make the door open. Okay, that's it. It's also the range, but anyway, so now the door is open, so I can show you. See, so now the animation is there, and then you can stop recording. So here we go. So now we have the animation. Is yeah, it's here. So select this animation clip and check off loop time, so the animation will only play once when it is called. And also I want you to select the hinge, go to its animator. See, this is the animation controller, right? So that's it. So I want you to double click, and remember what we have done earlier. So we don't want this animation to play by default. See, this is the entrance state. So when we start the game, the animation gonna enter here and it's gonna play the animation. So we want it to be an empty state in the beginning. So right click, create a state empty. Okay, so this is gonna be empty state. It doesn't have any animation in it. Okay, so we want to make this as the default state, and the door open animation gonna be played once the script called it to play. Okay, and then we have to double check the script. See, press key, open the door. We need to check what we name the animation clip. So here we name the animation clip as door open, right? Get its component animator and then play the door open animation. See, you're going to get the hinge. Where's the hinge? You're gonna get a hinge, and you're going to get its component named animator, and you're gonna play inside of the animation controller, you're gonna play the door open animation clip. See, here we don't have any animation clip that has the name, so that's to see we have to select this animation clip and rename it. So it's safe, just copy it here and paste it here, so we can make sure the caps lock is all the same and no space between them. All right, let me see. I think we get everything. Oh, we have to apply it. So animation object, so we have to apply the hinge to here. Okay, so that's the iron cage. And you know what? I would also want to keep everything organized. I would select audio open hinge and trigger open the door. Trigger open the door. Let me change the name. Trigger open cage door. Okay, so that way it's more organized. Okay, so select both the trigger open the cage and the audio open the cage. Move them instead of the iron cage group. Okay, so here we go. So inside the group, so everything is inside the group. All right, so now let me test to play the game. So let me bring the first person controller closer so we don't have to run all the way from the beginning. Okay. All right, so now I see the cage. See, it has the instruction. So if I press E, all right, everything works, but I noticed the weird thing. See, I'm able to penetrate through it. So we have to change a few things. So first we have to change is, first thing we have to change is the mesh collider. We need to assign mesh collider to it, so we will not be able to penetrating through it, right? So it's basically the collider. So here I'm gonna select the cage, the door. Okay, so select the cage and hold on Command and click on the door. So we're gonna select both of them and add a component. Search mesh collider. See, pump of it on the top. Okay, so apply a mesh collider. So what it does is basically you're gonna create a collider based on the mesh. So basically it's based on all of the vertices you have. So now we have added the mesh collider to it, so our player will not be able to penetrate through it. So now let's also add that to this container and this container. So select both of them and go to add component. Let's assign a mesh collider as well. All right, so now I created this cabinet in Maya, and we'll bring it into Unity. So what we're gonna use it for is we're going to put the flashlights, the lantern, and a gun inside of the drawer. So the player has to look for it, open all of the drawers to find the gun and flashlights. Okay, so let's import this model into Unity. So find the cabinet folder, and in Unity go to the models folder and import the model. Excuse me. So here we're going to drop in the cabinet. So here we go. So the size may be a little bit small. Let's try put 2.5 XYZ. Oh, maybe too much. Excuse me, my bad. So let me actually bring in the first person character reference. Yeah, here we go. Player reference. So we can reference the scale. So this is our player. Yeah, I think the scale works. Okay, so we don't have to change the scale. Anyway, I'm gonna put the reference on the side, and I'm gonna continue with the cabinet. So here we're going to rotate it in minus 90 degree. Okay. So now let's create a trigger for the cabinet. So let's go to 3D object, create a cube. I will rename it to trigger open cabinet. Okay, and don't make this trigger too big, because later on we're gonna duplicate this cabinet. We're gonna have several of it, and we're gonna only put the flashlights in one of them. So the player has to open all of them in order to find the flashlights. So that's the plan. Okay, so we don't want the player to be able to open the cabinet from a far distance. All right, I think this is good. Yeah, this is a good size. All right, so now let me turn off mesh renderer and check on its trigger. So this is going to be a trigger. So now I want you to bring in the script. So go to the script folder, find the press key, open cabinet script, drop it in here. I already imported the script here. Okay. So let's get the script onto the trigger open cabinet object. Okay, so here are the variables we will input. So let's do it one by one. So here instructions. So basically instruction is press E to open the cabinet, right? Okay, so we're gonna just go to the canvas, go to the last one, which is, okay, instruction open door. So we can simply just duplicate this one and rename the new one as instruction open cabinet. Okay, and let's hide the last one. And then let's select this guy and full screen. So here for instruction open cabinet, we're going to change the text showing on the instruction. Maybe not press E to open the cabinet. Maybe press E to find the flashlights. Okay, it could be more interesting because we're going to duplicate this multiple times, right? The cabinet, we're going to have several versions of it. Okay, and here for the instruction name, instruction open cabinet, we can change it to instruction find flashlight. Okay, so that's more accurate. I always keep everything, the name convention, kind of accurate, so we will be able to tell which one is for what function. Okay, so now switch back to trigger open cabinet, and here instruction, we're going to just plug in the last one, and this trigger is itself. Okay, and we need a drawer open sound. Okay, so let's go to assets, go to audio. Let's bring in the audio cabinet drawer. Let's bring that in here. Okay, and then let's go back into the scene and let's create a new empty object. Let's see audio open cabinet and drop the audio onto it. And check all play on wake because we want it to be called by the script, and make it as a 3D sound, and then let's assign it onto the trigger. So that's gonna be drawer open sound. Okay, and then dialog. So basically, when I write the script, what is used for the dialog? So for example, when you actually find the cabinet, you find the flashlight, right? And then you're going to pump up a dialog. It says, okay, press E to pick up the flashlights. Now you find it, you have to press E again to pick it up yet. Because the world gonna be dark, all the lights gonna be gonna turn off, so you will need the flashlights to explore the darkness. So it's something like that. So basically it gives you the instruction to pick up the flashlights after you find it, and it give you a hint that all of the lights gonna shut off later on, so you need that. Okay, so basically that's it. So here let's assume that like we have 5 cabinets, 4 of them don't have the flashlights in it. Okay, so let's assume that the first cabinet we have, there's no flashlight in it at all. So we don't need a dialog, right? We don't need to say, okay, pick up the flashlights. You will need them to explore the darkness. We don't need this dialog. So in that case, by default, we're going to just plug in a empty object here as a placeholder, so our script won't have error to run, right? So let's go to game object and create new empty, and we can just say empty, empty holder or something. And Okay, and we can come back here and drop it onto the dialog. So it's an empty object, so you won't show anything. Also pick up object trigger. So what that means is when I open the drawer, if there's actually flashlights, okay, and then we will have another trigger at there to allow the player to be able to press a key to pick up the flashlights. Okay, so that requires another trigger. But let's say assume the first drawer we open, there's nothing in it, so this should be empty as well, right? So we can simply just duplicate it. Okay, duplicate the empty holder and assign it here. Okay, and once we duplicate this cabinet, when we get the one that actually has the flashlights, we're going to actually write the dialog and create the actual pickup object trigger. Okay, so now for these two empty holders, let's just drop them underneath the trigger open cabinet, this object, so you keep our scene more organized. Okay. Now let's see what else. Okay, so anime object. So we need to animate the drawer. Okay, so when we pick up the EK to open the cabinet, so the drawer will come out. So now we will go to the cabinets folder and go to the second one, which is the drawer. Okay, so we're gonna animate it as the Z-axis. Okay. So here, let's go to the animation folder, and let's select the cabinet part 2 drawer, and then switch to the animation tab, and let's create a new animation. So for this new animation, let's say open drawer or open cabinet or anything. I would, to keep the name convention the same, I would say open cabinet drawer. Okay, so save. And then let's start record the animation. So I will only give it about like a half a second to fully open the drawer. So let's put our current time at 30 frames. 30 frames is a half second because the game is 60 frames per second, as you can see. So let's open the drawer all the way to the end. Here we go. So it automatically creates this keyframe. And then let's stop recording. And let's go back to project section, and let's find the animation we just created, which is open cabinet drawer. Let's turn off loop time, so when the animation is called, you'll only play it once. You will not, keep repeat that animation. You will not do that. Okay, so now let's select the drawer again. Go to its animation controller. Okay, is this one. So double click to open it. Remember, we have done this all a lot of times. So in the animation controller, we don't want the drawer to play the animation by default. Instead, we want it to start with an empty state, right? And we set this empty state as a default state. So by default, the cabinet will play a empty animation. In other words, is nothing, right? And the animation will be played once it's called by the script. So what we should name the animation clip? See here. So once the script called us to play the animation, you're going to play the animation clip named drawer open. So copy this part, select the animation clip, the clip, and then go to its name and paste the name there to change it. Okay, so now the script will be able to find the animation, and then you're gonna play the animation. So in the scene, the drawer gonna play the animation to open the door. All right, so once you have that, we're gonna go to the trigger open cabinet object and assign the enemy object, which is the drawer. I think we got everything. Okay, so let me just do a quick test. Let me save it and do a quick test. But before I go, get started. Okay, here's the player. Okay, so now let me do a test. Okay, see, as we enter the trigger, it says press E to find the flashlights. As I step out, it disappeared. As I step in, if I press E, here we go. It opened it, and nothing is in there. And we're able to penetrate through it because we don't have the mesh collider. So now let's apply it. So now let's go to the cabinet, part 1, part 2, both of them. Add components and just search for mesh collider. If you just search mesh collider, it should pop up in the window. It being cut off in the video because my screen is small. Okay, so here we go. So just assign a mesh collider, and also we will need a nice texture for it. So let's go to the assets. Go back to the models folder, go back to the cabinets, and here we have the textures. So let's apply a, which one would be better? So let's, for safe, let's just create a material manually. Instead of drop the texture directly, we'll just create a material manually, and we're gonna say cabinet. So that's, this way we can test which texture map works the best, because here I have the base color map, I also have the height map and roughness map, but sometimes, see, if you think this is too bright, okay, you may use, for example, roughness map or other map, you know, even though the roughness map and the height map is for other purposes, you know, here we can use it for the general texture, you know, since you are not, you know, taking the 3D modeling course, so you don't have to use the roughness map and height map in the real scenario. Okay, I think I'll, let me see. I think I'll just use the original, the base color map, which is this one, base color map. It's a little bit bright, but it's fine. Okay, and then the normal map, we can drop it here. So now you can see the bumps. Okay, and we're gonna drop this material onto other objects as well. Okay, and then let's try, select the material, let's try tiling. So if I put 4, yeah, 4 looks better. It gives us more detail. Okay, so now here comes to the fun part. We're gonna duplicate this multiple times, and we're gonna allow the player to look each one of them to find the flashlights. So, but before I do that, I would move the trigger and the audio all into the cabinets group. Okay, so it's nice and neat. Okay, and also it would be great if you can see. Okay, I think I'll just keep the name convention as it is. So let's just make a duplications. So here hit Command D to make another duplication. Command D to make another one. And the original one, I'm gonna shift it leftward a little bit. Just give it more space inside there. Because you know what? I'm gonna actually hide the flashlights in this one, in the very right cabinet. Okay, here's the 4 of them. Maybe here I can put a few. So, here's one. Here's one. Here I'm gonna put 180 degree. Yep. And you know what? I think I'm going to make it more interesting, I'm going to have some of the cabinet lay on the floor. So that gonna be -90. So this one gonna be lay on the floor. So for the ones that's lay on the floor, we may need to expand the trigger a little bit, because otherwise we'll have to stab on it in order to open it. That's weird. So I'm gonna come here and just expand it a little bit. So we should open it when we're stabbed inside of the trigger. And I'm gonna place this one here. Maybe, oh, my bad. Move the whole group, not the single object. And here I think I'm gonna tilt it a little bit to make it more interesting. And I think I may also create one here and make it name on the other one. Okay, to make it more interesting. Okay. Okay, and for some of them, I'm going to pull them forward, move them forward, and this one, the original one, move forward as well, and this one, move it backward. Okay, so now I have a lot of them. Let me do a quick test first. So these two open at the same time, so I may have to rearrange them. Okay, so all of them works. So I think I'll just have to rearrange this one. So yeah, place it here. All right. And you know what? The instruction, it says find the flashlight. Okay, but you know what? Later on, we're going to also have some cabinet that has the gun. Okay, so you decide. You may change some of the instructions to a different sentence. Like you can create a new instruction, say press E to find the gun. You know, and some of them say press E to find the flashlight. Oh, okay. Anyway, just to let you know. So now we're going to put the flashlights in one of the cabinet, which is this one. Okay, cabinet 3. So I'm gonna rename this as cabinet has flashlight. Okay, so this is just for me to reference. You know, as the developer, we know this one actually has the flashlight, so we don't need to, you know, select each individual one, you know, to guess where is it. Okay, so now let's see. I'm gonna come back here. I'm gonna select the cabinet P1, which is the cabinet body. Let me temporarily hide it, and we're gonna place the flashlights and the lantern in there. So let's go back to the model folder. Now let's select the lantern and flashlights and drop them into the models folder in Unity. And it says, okay, fix the normal maps issue. All right, and then we will go to the lanterns first and drop in the lantern model and place that into the drawer. And by default, it's too big, so let's make it smaller. Okay, similar to the drawer's height. And then here I'm going to create a new a cube. So this cube gonna be flashlights group. Okay, I'm gonna say flashlights group. And I'm gonna place it here. Oh, it's too big. Smaller. Okay, right there. All right, and then I'm going to go to flashlight and drop in the flashlight here and change the the rotation as -90. Bring it up and make it bigger, something like that. Okay. maybe a little bit too big. All right. And then let's create material for it. Let's say M flashlight. Here's the color map, here's the normal map, and fix the normal map with the issue, and drop the texture, the material onto the flashlights. So here we go. Okay, so we're going to bring the flashlights and the lantern all into this flashlight group, which is the cube. Why? Because we want to turn them on and off together. Okay, and we're going to reference that in the script. So whenever you pick it up, so both of them are going to disappear. Okay, so that's why. So next, we want this to follow with the animation, right? To follow with the drawer. So all you have to do is put this whole group, the flashlights group, underneath the cabinet drawer. See, underneath the cabinet drawer. So once we open the drawer, the flashlight is going to follow. We're going to move out. Okay. And okay, so next step, once we open this drawer, let's see, we open it, and we found there's a flashlight in it. Okay, and remember the trigger. So here the trigger, open cabinet. Okay, so this is trigger, open cabinet. Oops. Oh, it's very hard to. Okay, so here we go. Here's the naming convention. So when open cabinet has flashlight. Okay, so I just give it a different name so I can tell, you know, this one's different. So when we open it, see here, because now this drawer actually has the flashlights, so we need to have a dialog, okay, a dialog to remind the player that, okay, you will need them to explore the darkness because the flashlight is going to be turned off. The light's going to be turned off soon, okay? And you also need the trigger, pickup object trigger in order to pick up the flashlights, okay? So let's create all of those. So now, okay, make sure we are, let me select the flashlight. Okay, select the flashlights, press F key. So make sure we are focused our view on it, and then go to the game object, create a 3D object and a 3D cube. So for this cube, we're gonna see trigger pick up object. Okay, and make it bigger. So it should cover all the area in front of the drawer. And let me show the cabinet. Okay, so don't make it too wide, otherwise, you know, we will be able to pick up the flashlights in the far distance. We don't want that happen. So just about this size. Okay, and turn off mesh rendering. Check on its trigger. Okay, and we're going to apply a script onto it later. But here let's create an instruction, dialog actually. So now let's go to, where's the instruction? Oh, here. Okay, so instruction, and let's just duplicate the one and rename this as dialog flashlights. Okay, again, if you recall the recent demo, you know, we the countdown script, remember, we can just create one the text, and in the script we can write each of the script, and that is updated here. We can do it that way, you know. But because it has to go through the script, I don't want it to be too complex. Okay, in the script it will be too complex. So here I'll just make it simple. So we for each time we want to add a sentence, we're going to just create a new text here. Okay, so here's the dialog. And let's hide the other instruction, and let's go to the dialog we just created. And here in the text box, you can put something like, okay, it will be dark soon. You need to collect the flashlights because, you know, all the lights gonna be shut off. So something like that. And let's zoom in to the text and make sure all of them are showing correctly. So obviously we need to make this text box a little bit bigger. Okay, so once you have that, then you can go back to the cabinet that has the flashlights. Okay, and go to the trigger open the cabinet, and here the dialog, instead of to have an empty object, we're going to plug in the dialog flashlights, pick up object trigger, which is going to be trigger pickup object, right? Okay, so to make everything organized, we can also put the trigger pickup object inside of the cabinet group. Okay, just drop it inside of the group, so everything is in here. It's more organized. Okay, so now let's bring in the script. Let's go to the script, and now we need to collect the flashlights. Wait, let me see if I have already imported the script or not. Pick up. Okay, actually we already imported the script. Remember in the beginning when we pick up the key, where is located around the scroll, right? We pick up the key, so we have imported that. All right, so now let's go back to trigger pickup object for this one. Okay, so let's simply just, let me see, pickup object. Okay, simply just drop this script onto this trigger. So here we go. So here are the variables we have to plug in. First is the instruction. So now basically the instruction will be press EK to pick up the flashlights, right? So I'm gonna just duplicate the instruction page that I created earlier, and hide the dialog, show the instruction, and here instead of say instruction find flashlights, I'm gonna say pick up flashlights. Okay, so here I'm gonna say press E to pick up the flashlights. And all right, so the instruction is there. So let me assign it to the trigger. So here's the instruction for pick up the oh wait, sorry, my bad. Oh, I renamed it. Why it doesn't update? Okay, instruction pick up flashlight. Yeah, now it's updated. All right, so assign here, and then this trigger is itself. And object on ground basically is, let me hide here. I can show you. So basically, it is the flashlights group. Okay. So once we press E to pick up the flashlights, so the object in the drawer is going to be hidden, it's going to be deactivated. So that's what it's for. Okay, object on ground. So we going to assign this to here. Oh, my bad. Object on ground. Okay, and object on hand. How to do it? So I'm gonna show you later. So let's keep it as a blank for now. Next instructions basically is telling your player the keys you need to operate the flashlights. Like for example, press 1 for to show a short area. Press 2 to show the ambient lights. Press 3 to show the floodlights. Okay, because of the flashlights has different mode, right? So basically that gives us the instruction. So we can okay, we can just start now. Instruction. Okay, so let's just duplicate the instruction, pick up the flashlights, hide the original one, and the new one I'm gonna say instruction for flashlight, or instruction to use flashlight. Okay, so here because we haven't moved on to the flashlights, we haven't actually bring that onto the model, so we haven't decided what key we're going to use. So here I'll just type here will be flashlight instruction. So we're gonna change the text later on, okay? And right now we just need a placeholder. So pick up object here. Next instruction I just created, yeah. Instruction to use flashlight and pick up object sound. Okay, so let's get that one. All right, so let's get that one. Let's go to game object, create empty, and let's say audio pick up flashlight, and let's go back to the audio folder, and let's bring in the audio for pick up flashlights, which is this one. So bring that in. I'm not sure if I already bring it in or not. Let me see. No, I haven't. Okay, so bring that in. So pick up flashlights. Okay, it's here. So now drop it in here. And again, turn off play on wake and change it to 3D lights. And bring this, assign this onto the script. And bring this into the folder. Okay, into the folder, the cabinet folder. So it's organized. Okay. What else? Let me see. Trigger pickup object. Okay, so we have to refine the instruction and we have to place the object on hand. Okay, so that's gonna be the next step. So here let's just do a object for testing. So let's just select the FPS controller. Pay attention on the Z-axis. So this is the front of our player. So let's create a 3D object, a cube, and we're gonna make it small in front of the player. We're gonna change the name to something like test. Okay, so this is a test object, test flashlight on hand. Okay, does that make sense? All right, so now because this object has to move with the player, so we will need to drop it into the FPS controllers group. Okay, drop it into the first person controller and first person characters group. So the first person character is the camera. See, now the flashlight is here in front of the player. We can make it a little bit higher, right? So we'll be able to see it anyway. Now if you go to the script, trigger pickup object, okay, and if you just assign the object at here. So this is the test object that as I mentioned. So assign it so we can test if the script works, if we have done anything wrong. Oh, I forgot one thing. Sorry, I forgot to show the cabinet power one. Okay. So here it says press E to find the flashlights. If I press E, I open it. Okay, so it comes the dialog and dialog disappeared. Now it gives me instruction to, okay, press E to pick up the flashlight. Okay, and here will be flashlights instruction, and also, as you can see, the flashlight is in front of our screen, it's following with us. Okay, so everything works. Okay, so now let me explain the press key to open cabinets function. Basically, here in the beginning, the instruction is disabled. Instruction is press E to open the cabinet, and also the dialog, which says you need the flashlights. Okay, so that are all disabled. And pick up object trigger is also disabled. So you won't be able to pick up the object inside of the drawer before you go through all of this. Okay, so again, as I said, when the object that tags the player enter the trigger, so we have a Boolean to check either false, it has action false or true. So when the player is inside of the trigger, so the action is true. Okay, and it'll show the instruction, which is press E to open the drawer. And when the player exits the trigger, so the instruction going to be disabled, and also the action check going to be false. Okay, so when we press down a key, the key is E, if we press down E, and at the same time, when the action is true, so that means our player is inside of the trigger. So when both condition met, right, if and if, So what's gonna happen is the instruction, which is press E to open the cabinet, is gonna be disabled. We don't need it anymore. And you're gonna grab the enemy object and you're gonna get its component. You're gonna get its component. You're gonna get its animator, see, and play the animation clip, which is the drawer open. See, drawer open. You're gonna play that. And you're gonna disable this trigger, which is the open the drawer trigger. You're gonna disable it, and then you're gonna play the open drawer sound, and you're gonna start a coroutine. So let me show you what coroutine here is. So basically, you're gonna start this coroutine. So you're gonna wait for 1 second before it's showing the dialog. Okay, so wait. Once you open the drawer, you see the flashlights. You won't be able to pick it up, and there's nothing on the screen. And until 1 second passed, you're gonna show dialog. You're gonna see, okay, so you will need the flashlights to explore the darkness, and then the dialog gonna keep showing on the screen for 4 seconds. You're gonna stay there for 4 seconds, and then you're gonna disappear. And once the dialog disappeared, you have to wait for another half a second before the pickup object trigger gonna show up. So once the dialog disabled, after half a second, the pickup object trigger will be activated, and now you should be able to pick up it. And then it will jump to the pickup object script, right? It's because the pickup object trigger is enabled, and then it jump back to the pickup object script. Okay, so we already went through this, so you know what this is for. Okay, but the only thing that we haven't explored is the coroutine for pickup object. So basically it's the same. So once we pick up the object, see, you're going to wait for 0.1 seconds, and then you're going to show the next instruction. So next instruction is basically shows us, you know, what keys we need to press in order to operate the flashlights. Okay, and the instruction is going to stay on screen for 4 seconds before it's been disabled. Okay, and then after another half a second, the pickup object trigger can also be disabled because we're already done with it. Okay, so that's the whole thing. So next step, we're going to work on the flashlight function.